March 19th, 2020, Watertown, South Dakota City Planning Commission, meeting to order. Roll call.
Culhane.
Present.
Oletsky.
Present.
Stein.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Jargus Johnson.
Here.
And Kays.
Here.
Good thing we got you back from the break. And Dolly.
Here.
And Ford and Brink are absent. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Like to invite anyone that would like to come up in the public comment portion of the meeting later on to please see Brandy, get signed up. Like to talk about the agenda. Do you have an amendment to the agenda?
Yeah, I have a couple. So we are going to postpone item A, and I'll pull that up here on the screen. That will be the election of Plan Commission and Board of Adjustment Chairman and Vice Chairman. It's not time sensitive, and just because of where we're at on time, we can hold that off until a later meeting. And then also I have an amendment to item F, which is for the comprehensive land use plan. And so Luke had just, when Luke gives that presentation remotely, we have a slideshow, but then he will be phoning in. Then he does have that handout that I gave you all. That's his changes. And so that includes the additions now that we have adopted the CL district. So that's just any amendments. And then also, and I could wait till we get to that item, but since we're talking about it, if there's any, if there's anything that changes as far as if there's a clerical error or formatting, if between now and the city council, he might run into that, but nothing substantial would change. And if it did, it would come back to you as it would need approval again.
Okay, thank you. Any other changes to the agenda?
Nope, that'll be it.
All right. If I get a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion passed. The approval of the minutes. Do we have the minutes from last time? Yeah, we do. March 5th?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. I get a motion to approve the agenda, the minutes from March 5th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Minutes approved. All right, Brandy, take her away.
Okay, so this agenda item is commission consideration of resolution number 2020-09, adopting the boundaries of the tax increment financing district number 11 within the city of Watertown, South Dakota. So this is, like it said, or this is our 11th TIF that you guys will be looking at here today, and it's at the address of 15 First Street. Oh, that's not included. Let me get it. I'll pull it up here on the map. Where am I? Okay. 15 First Street Northwest. And this is a project proposed by WDC, and the developer on this project will be Eric Scott of Creststone Builders. I guess it's a proposed mixed use of commercial and housing that will be created to pay the costs of public infrastructure, property acquisition, and other expenses needed to facilitate the construction of a 16,000 square feet of retail and commercial space, 52 one and two bedroom apartments with 50 private parking spaces and 28 public parking spaces. Now, I believe the 50 are underground parking and the 28 is on main level. And then the rents are anticipated to range $750 to $1,200 per month.
Mr. Chair, I need to recuse myself, please.
Whatever. All right, Jargus Johnson, recuse herself. And also, for the record, in case anybody's confused, Tracy and I are not related, even though we actually have the same last name. So just in still full disclosure, if anybody thought there was any conflict of interest.
Nobody even knows that Tracy's sitting there yet. She hasn't even introduced herself.
I'm ahead of the curve.
Well, we know that.
All right. Did you have anything else to add on that, or just have
Nope, just that.
All right, Tracy, do you want to speak to this then, or do you have a microphone?
Tracy Stein.
Hang on, gotta get your microphone.
Okay, I'm Tracy Stein, and I work for the Watertown Development Company. I am the Director of Marketing and Public Communication. I created this TIF plan for the City of Watertown, TIF number 13. It is a mixed-use project that will have commercial.
11.
Oh, 11, I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself again. Mixed use that will have commercial and apartments that will redevelop an area that is somewhat blight and in need of redevelopment.
As far as where Watertown sits with respect to other cities our size, how are we sitting with the TIF situation?
We are still, we're only on TIF number 11, but we do have 2 more coming up. But we are still kind of behind on the larger cities. They're way up there for TIF plans and TIF use as an economic development tool. So we're just getting started.
Tracy?
Yes,
This is
Todd.
Todd. What's the maximum amount of dollars that a community can set aside in all their cumulative TIFs?
It is, and it's shown in the plan. It's 1%.
Yeah, I know that. I just
Oh.
wanted you to say that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. And we are far below that yet.
All right,
1% of all the TIF
So you can.
current taxable value of TIF property or of property within the city of Watertown. Yes.
So you can see there that 17 million is our number, and we're at 5 million.
Correct.
And this is on, oh gosh, there's not a page.
Mike Knudsen.
Refer to the screen.
so it includes what was formerly the laser tag building and other property, or just that?
So
I believe that is one building.
Yeah, it is one building. Like a million years ago. A million years ago, wasn't that the old Zimmel's furniture
It
building?
was, yeah. It was,
A million.
yeah.
So yeah, this little corner property that is there today, that won't be included. That'll remain.
No, right? Chuck's lock. I think that's where Chuck moved into after he sold his building.
All right, so what are we specifically wanting to do today?
So what you guys do with this TIF presentation is that you adopt the plan and the district boundaries.
Yeah, there's only two.
You don't adopt the plan. You only approve the boundaries.
Well, we recommend the TIF. There's two things. You approve the boundary and recommend the TIF. I think.
Recommend the TIF to
So-
city council for approval.
Yeah, we have to make a recommendation to city council.
On the boundaries of the TIF.
Is that it? That's it?
Yep.
I was thinking it was 2 things.
All right, I mean, are we gonna have a presentation, or are we gonna talk about this, or you just wanna?
Well, that was the short and sweet presentation.
And we do have Eric Scott here, the developer that could.
I'm sorry?
We do have Eric Scott here, the developer who could talk more about his project, as well as Chris.
I'm guessing what Chairman Stein might be referring to is maybe a brief overview of TIFs and how they work, just for general public watching, as we're only on number 11, and we've done quite a few in the last year.
Right.
So there was a long history
Sorry,
of.
introduce yourself.
Oh, Chris Shilkin, Watertown Development Company. So there was a long history of probably no TIF activity in Watertown for a while. So these programs are tax increment financing, of course, when the word tax comes up, kind of gets people excited. But what this does is it takes increased value in taxes that are going to be realized over 20 years and can be credited to the developer to make projects happen. So Tracy has already submitted these two coming up to the state, and they already have been classified as economic development. So what that does is it does not burden the school district or the county as far as the revenue that they're going to lose. In the meantime, they'll be made whole. And then as well as the taxes that are currently being paid as of today or when this project goes into effect, those taxes will also be paid. So the county and the city or the taxing entities will still receive that same amount. So they won't be losing anything. They'll be deferring to when they would get this, which is set to be 20 years down the road. So.
All right, thank you. Eric, did you have anything you want to add on that, or?
Not necessarily. I'm here to answer questions. Super excited to bring this project. We've developed a lot of apartments in Watertown, and I've been enamored with our downtown for a long time. But it's difficult to make projects work in downtown, especially when you have to buy a small landmass and potentially tear down a building that theoretically has value, right? So learning how TIFs work, and kudos to our development company for bringing this tool to Watertown, made this particular project feasible. And so I started to pursue it, and here we are. I'm excited to get going.
How did you happen to select this piece of property?
One of the things I liked about it was the size of the property. It's actually a little bit larger. It leaves some room to do things. It's also not one of the most beautiful buildings in downtown. There's a lot of buildings that just have so much character that I just couldn't tear down, honestly, or wouldn't want to tear down. This building doesn't have that downtown charm. I think it's a good area for what I want to do. It's kind of a little quieter corner. I like what surrounds it. I like the little building on the corners, just a cute little downtown building. And as I started to look at it, there's only probably a few of these sites left that really have a big opportunity to upgrade. And I like the way I can build an L-shaped building around this and create its own little courtyard, or I envision its own little Main Street feel there. I'd like to do a brick paver street. No guarantees on that. We're still working on pricing on that stuff, but kind of want to create its own little downtown or its own little community feel inside that corner. So
this is your first TIF project?
This is my first TIF in Watertown. I'm actually working on one in Millbank right now as well. That's gone through, and hopefully we're ready to break ground here in about a month on that one.
All right.
Is your building going to go right up to the sidewalks and the alleys? It looks like you have alleyway on two sides.
Correct.
And the building will go right up to them?
Correct.
Okay. And there's going to be parking in there too?
So there's parking, there's underground parking. The planned entrance is coming from what would be the northwest corner. And then there's tuck under parking. So there's main level or underground parking, and then there's going to be some main level parking along both the alleyways.
So then to enter it, you're going to go down both of them alleys to get there?
You would go down one alley to get there, but
the one that runs east and west on the north side of the building?
Correct.
Okay. But
Well,
not
maybe
from the south?
Maybe the north and south one, though, because that's paved.
Right. So I'm sorry, I can't
Here,
point. Sure.
Yeah, you go ahead with that.
So the access to the underground parking will be right here going down this way. So that's how you'd enter the underground parking. Now, there is going to be some parking right here tucked under the building, and some parking back here tucked under the building all the way along this edge.
But-
How many units is going to be in there?
That's something, though, that you guys, so he will still come forward for a conditional use. So then you guys he'll have the site plan laid out at that point.
Sounds like an exciting project. Any other questions for any of this staff here? Okay, thank you. Do we need to vote on this to send it on to the city council?
Yep.
Okay, and Liam knows the mechanics of this. We gotta.
I don't know about that. I'd make a motion to we're supposed to designate the location as a TIF district?
According to South Dakota law, you approve the boundaries.
We approve the boundaries, the
Recom-
city makes the resolution to create the district.
Planning Commission designates the boundaries of a district that the Planning Commission recommends be created.
And then we also have to adopt the project plan.
No,
No.
What about 11.9.13? The planning commission shall adopt a project plan. Which I think this is the project plan. So does the, I guess my question would be, does the motion need to have that as well?
Yes, include that in the motion. I guess I was advised by previous TIF advisors that the Plan Commission merely adopts the boundaries, but I'll have to look more into that 11.9.13. So include it in your motion.
This is Eric Scott again. I believe that's in there from my understanding of what we've done is because the TIF district is tied to a project that's the parameters that are in there. So if I came back and said I want to make this a hotel or something else, or if I built a hotel, the TIF district wouldn't necessarily apply to a hotel. It applies to an apartment or a mixed-use building. That's my understanding of what's in there. There's people in here that probably know more about TIFs than me, but
I'd make a motion to approve resolution number.
Hold on.
Did Liam make a motion? I second it.
I'm trying, I'm limping through it, Todd. I'd make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-09 to designate the boundary of the tax increment financing district, and if required by 11.9.13, that we adopt the project plan that's been attached.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, we'll take a vote.
Cohen,
Yes?
Oletsky,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Kays,
Yep.
Dolly,
Yeah.
and Dargis Johnson recused herself, but motion passes.
Right, thank you. Go on to the next item, another TIF, huh?
Yes, okay. So this is commission consideration of resolution number 2020-10, adopting the boundaries of tax increment finance district number 12 within the city of Watertown, South Dakota. And this is located on what you heard at the Board of Adjustment for the conditional use for, let me get to it, for 8 2nd Street Northeast, which is the County Fair Banquet Hall that you guys would relate to. So TIF 12 is a proposed mixed use of commercial and housing that will be created to pay for the cost of public infrastructure, property acquisition, and other expenses needed to facilitate the construction of a 38,000 square feet of retail,
He's done this one too?
commercial space and 36 car tenant parking garage on the first floor and 36 one-bedroom apartments total on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. So as you heard with the conditional use, then that parking was adequate, and there will be no underground parking. It's street level, and he's actually adding just as much as he needs, except downtown you don't actually need additional parking, but that's why it's a conditional use, so you guys can look at that. So he's provided that for one parking stall per bedroom for a multi-family unit. That's all I have. Oh, sorry, the developer is Jesse Craig of Craig Properties.
Right. Tracy, you have anything to add on this one?
I do not.
Okay. Chris, go ahead.
Just as full disclosure too, as we keep talking about TIFs, there are plans for maybe 1 or 2 more as we develop some more downtown project too. So just so you guys are aware, I think there might be one in April and then maybe one more to follow after that on some separate project. So just want to give you a heads up that at some point we're running out of space to develop, but I think as downtown our housing needs are growing, I think these are good projects to keep moving forward on.
Thank you.
Just question.
Chair,
Yes.
again, a question for Chris to be consistent with the last item. The creation of this TIF is still underneath our cap space.
Yes.
And then just to point out too, here I have up on the overhead, the boundaries do include the alleys, which would need to be vacated formally. But that would happen, that'll happen at a later date once plans proceed a little bit more.
So I guess that's my question. So the, so I had to turn my map here. The Community Foundation has a garage that enters and exits off that alley. Is that, how do we vacate that when they have use of that?
Well, and that's something that we'll have to look at when we vacate it. But that's just what they're proposing it within this boundary in hopes that probably that they can work with that landowner and get it figured out. But we're not vacating it at this point. It's still an active public right of way. They're just including it in the TIF if that would work out.
All right.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Liam, you got the hang of this now.
Well, and you guys you should really just be able to act on the resolution that's presented to you instead of having.
All right, then I just make a motion to approve resolution 2020-10.
All right, second.
A second.
You have a second?
Yep, Dolly did.
Yep. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
No roll call?
Nah,
All right.
thought that one had a good chance.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. See you later.
Yes. Okay.
You go ahead.
Okay. So this is agenda item D or 4, or actually 3 after we amended it. So this is a proposed rezone up in the River Ridge Estates edition. And so they've annexed the entire parcel that they own. And I can navigate there. So you guys have an idea of proximity. River Ridge Estates. So the entire area owned by Greg Hofteaser, who's the acting agent for High Plains Development Corps, it's already annexed, and then they zoned it Ag, A1, Agricultural District. And so now what they're proposing is to rezone a portion to R1 Single Family Residential, which is what their whole development consists of today. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just they're ready to develop it. So this is just a step towards that. And then you guys would be presented a plat and development agreement in the future once anything would change. But this is just, they have to rezone it before they can plat. Just a step.
Brandy, where did we ever come out with the park district or the dedicated parklands on this
Yep.
development?
So there's a stipulation that they can't develop any more land until they include the park in their next plat. And the park board approved this, and we approved the preliminary plan last summer. So that's where this area here includes that park. So we as the plan commission or even as staff wouldn't approve, well, staff never approves anything, but we really would work with them before we would bring it to you, to encourage them to include that. But as the plan commission, you would make sure that park dedication was included in the plat. So, and it will be. That's what this area here that I'm outlining, that's that park. And it's sufficient for meeting the requirements.
Ooh, that looks nice.
So that'll get that wrapped up and on the books.
All right. Anything else we need to know about this?
No,
Okay.
unless you have any questions.
Yeah, any questions for Randy? If not, take a motion on this item.
Is this Mr. Chair, did
Yep.
we open a public hearing on this?
I didn't, there's
Good call.
nobody here, but okay.
But-
Like to open the public comment,
Open the public hearing.
public hearing.
And that's where this new agenda software that we're using, we need to work with it because it's not as straightforward as following it because we don't have it say public hearing anymore, so.
Right.
Good catch, Todd.
Okay. Right. Seeing none, to close the public hearing. Now we take a vote,
Motion to approve.
or discussion, I guess? No, yeah, discussion on the, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Second.
All right,
What, Todd?
no, he just seconded it. Okay, so, we'll roll call this one quick.
Okay. Cohen?
Yes.
Aletsky?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Hanson? Dargis Johnson?
Yes.
Kays?
Yep.
Dolly?
Yes.
All right, next item.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, the next item is the commission consideration of resolution number 2020-13, approving the plat of Dakota Commons 7th edition to the municipality of Watertown and the county of Cottington. So, as another familiar subdivision is Dakota Commons on the east side of town. They have an area here that I'll show where it's annexed and zoned. And they are zoned as a PUD, which is a planned unit development. And so they have different stipulations that was approved, I think 2006, when this was annexed and zoned, the entire area. So you'll see what they're proposing to plat. There's already a street constructed, so there's no new public infrastructure. But there is 2 lots that could be platted, one on the north and one on the south, and you'll see whatever lot numbers those are, lot 7 and lot 25. And this is consistent too with their preliminary plan that was approved, or master plan that was approved for this PUD zoning. And so the only reason this could be administratively approved, but we have to dedicate that sliver of right-of-way that fronts both of those lots. So, and staff can't do that, so it has to go to Plan Commission and Council. But otherwise, it's consistent with all of our other regulations.
Okay. Any questions for Brandy? Comments? Any concerns? If not, I'll take a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
All right. On to item F that moved into E. Now this is the fun one.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
being that the organization I work for was the primary contractor in the development of the comprehensive land use plan, I am going to recuse myself from discussion and action on this item.
All right, so noted.
And is Luke on the line?
I am here waiting for when you're ready.
Sounds good. Okay, so how we're doing this is Luke has a presentation, and then he'll talk you through it, and there's nobody here for public hearing, I guess, but he'll walk you through what this comp plan is that we'll be recommending to adopt. And like this is the same comp plan that we've been working on, well, for many years, but more diligently through the last year, and we've been bringing the different, Luke's given you guys the presentation of each section, and then we came back with any amendments that we wanted to make to it. And so presumably he's included all that. And unless there's anything that we notice that we want changed, otherwise this is the presentation of the 2020 Comprehensive Land Use Plan given by Luke Muller, from the senior planner from the First District Association of Local Governments.
Thank
Take it
you,
away.
Brandy, and Mr. Chair, are you okay with me starting?
Yes, please do.
All right, certainly. I have a handful of slides that I would love to go through at some other night. Bottom line is this: if with your permission, I am going to summarize this a little more briefly. As Brandy introduced, this comprehensive land use plan has been in the works for several years. The most important thing that I need to note here is the fact that a comprehensive land use plan is a very important part of planning in your community, as I think the Planning Commission is well aware, but the public may not be aware, is that in order to have zoning, we have to have a land use plan. And in order to have a land use plan, we have to do what we're doing tonight. And that is to first hold a public hearing on the comprehensive land use plan, and then for the Planning Commission to recommend adoption. Again, this board has gone through over a dozen public meetings to review, discuss, draft, over the last half dozen years. And as I said, with your permission, I'll forego the summary and move on to questions after I make just a couple of points. The first of which is with regards to future land use maps, of which there are basically two of them that identify specific uses. Brandy, if you want to go down to slide 22 and then work your way down there where the maps start. One of the future land use maps identifies the existing developed area, of which we've gone through and updated from time to time as this board has recommended to do so. It gets into some of the transition areas that frankly you've dealt with today in some of your questions that come up, and trying to offer some guidance into how to handle that. And moving past that, from the developed area going to the future developed area, we have maps that identify where the town is expected to develop in the future, when the town is expected to develop in those areas, and what it's going to be projected to look like.
Luke,
within that, sorry, what's that?
one suggestion was just that I noticed that Valley View First Edition is not annexed.
It's not shown as annexed on that portion, correct?
Yep.
Yep. We can update that portion. So to that point, that portion is shown in the future development area, but yes, we will certainly do that. Again, I kind of expect that as just a formatting deal. Bottom line is, I will stand by for questions after making the last point, and that is that I'm hoping that the motion that this board makes after public hearing will include one amendment that I believe Brandy has provided to the board and is available for the public to review as well. And that simple amendment is just to incorporate the Lake Commercial District that this board approved, and it adopts that map for both Lake Pelican and Lake Compesca. There were very few text changes that needed to be done. They just needed to go into specific development areas, and it was just a matter of, again, form over substance. We just had to put it in the right areas. It was handled slightly different than the previous draft had handled, so we just had to show that in a couple areas. And then the last point, I think Brandy was talking about it at the time of the agenda, and that's just, we're hoping that that motion will allow us, if we have a blank page or if there's a typo or something in there, that you'll be okay with us editing those things as long as there's no substance to it. I'll stand by for questions.
Any questions?
Hey, Luke, with the addition of the commercial lake district there, and I'm looking at the future land use map, mixed land use, do we need to include that in that map as well, or simply include the maps as adopted with the commercial, with the lake commercial district?
Blake, that's a good question. The text that was added into there, and actually when you go into, we had the tables that indicate the sorts of uses
that would be allowed. The original draft indicated like a lake residential district or a separate zoning district for that area. And it also included into there recreational or commercial uses that would be supportive of recreational uses along the lake. So the bottom line is that the way the land use plan was written before largely supported it. We just had to do some minor text changes and then show your map in a couple of sections within there. And so to answer your question, that map doesn't necessarily have to say it because it's referenced in the table that I think Brandy is showing on there right now.
Yep. Thanks for that.
Yep.
It's in there already. Actually, this is the link.
Any other questions for Luke? I think they did a good job of taking all of our, anything that I mean, even through all discussion, all of the considerations that we've went through, and this will give us a good roadmap for future development. So, and it'll be nice to have one adopted because it's long overdue. So, thank you to First District for all your help and your continued help. They're always there.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Need to vote on this then.
Yep. Motion.
Before you vote, we do need to make sure the public hearing is open for the record.
Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing if anyone is here to speak on behalf or against this item. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Now I can take a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Need a second?
With the proposed amendment? I'd make the motion to approve resolution number 2020-12 with proposed amendment number 1 incorporating commercial lake district in redevelopment and future development areas.
And including Valley View as annexed in R1.
That too.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Colhane?
Yep.
Oletzky?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Dargis Johnson?
Yes.
Kays is recused, and Dolly.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Unanimously. Thank you, Luke, for your presentation. That was the best one yet.
Thank you much. I knew you'd appreciate it.
Thanks, Luke.
All right, next item.
Okay, so this is an ordinance amendment. It's commission.
Here, I'm back.
All right, Kays is back, for the record. Or unless you want to state that, Stein, as the chair.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
Commission consideration of resolution number 2020-08, a zoning text amendment to chapter 2180, addressing city identification, welcome signs, number, dimensions, and locations of individual signs, and maximum total sign area by zoning district. So if you looked back on the request for action, I just kind of outlined why we're proposing this. And in our current sign code, we don't have anything that allows really for, in a sort of exemption for city welcome or city identification signs, which you see in other communities as a welcome. So the thing is that sometimes these are set back further from the right of ways. There is no commercial message from these, so it's not, it's a unique situation. But when I brought this up as new business, there were concerns about that it shouldn't just be completely exempt, that Todd didn't want to see a double-decker sign, whatever that is. But so we did include, or what I'm proposing here is to the table that this would still be considered an off-premise sign. It would be freestanding. So then it would have to adhere to this table 2180-28, which all signs have to. But then I included K, so I put a footnote on the side on that first column that's labeled K. And then K says city identification / welcome signs that do not convey a commercial message are allowed one sign per frontage with no minimum frontage requirement, a maximum area of 2,000 square feet, and a maximum height of 30 feet in any zoning district.
Do we really want to say that you can put a 2,000 square foot sign in a residential zone?
My thought with that is that there might be an adjacent development where, like,
right
it's
now,
always
what that means right now is all I gotta do is I can go up and I can plop a 2,000 square foot sign at the intersection of 14th Avenue and 2nd Street.
but that's not a gateway, and it wouldn't be a.
Only in the gateway.
Yeah, so it's okay. So maybe we want clarification. So it says city identification welcome signs. I guess what I kind of tossed around too was that do we add that it has to be owned by the municipality? I don't know why anybody. I don't know what on their own property or on municipally owned property. So, 30 feet in any zoning district on the end there, somehow that we would add that, so we knew that it was a municipal project. Would that work?
So what you're talking about was like on Highway 20 when you're coming in from the west, and there already is that welcome sign by the water tower, isn't it? Or is it west of the water tower?
Well, so the one that I was actually, so the project that I've been kind of working on with the subcommittee from the H2O20 group is the interstate sign. So in that situation, the sign that we were allowed per our ordinance it would have looked minuscule, and it was just it wasn't enough because of the setback requirement. Well, the right of way is so large there, and I get it that so from Highway 212 to back where that sign is, that's a large area.
The existing sign?
Yeah. So why I went with 2,000 square feet is because the existing sign that's there is like 1,400 square feet. And so then 2,000 just as a cap at least. There was a max then. But then this would be for so what we would like to see is that be the first, the city, because like if you see like what Brookings has done, where then they have each of their gateways has a sign, it's nice, it's welcoming. And so we would like to see ours updated and consistent. So we would foresee one coming from North 81, South 81, and then West Highway 212 and North Highway 20. Eventually, but.
So Brandy,
Yep.
the table says all industrial, the K would apply to all commercial. It doesn't specify gateway overlay. It would be any road, any residential, any district, right?
Right, yeah, and I made that specific in the explanation of K2 because, it wouldn't just be the gateway overlay because that's only on the east side of town.
Well, then we just need to change it. That's not in any zoning district. We have to decide whether you want it in a residential or a commercial or industrial zoning district.
But the thing is that we won't really be able to tell what the adjacent zoning is. Like, I'm thinking North 81, like how Northridge is up there. If the city owned property up there and wanted to put a gateway sign, they would most likely zone that residential, just to be consistent, so you didn't have this spot zone for this sign.
Again, I'm not necessarily certain that anybody's going to want a 2,000 square foot sign in their backyard, though, either next to residential zoning.
Isn't it
What
going to
about
be
a-
like more into the road right away then?
Well, and we wouldn't put it there because that would be an obstruction, and the only thing that we can put there are like directional or, traffic safety signs. So, what number would you be comfortable with? 50? Because I mean, the Watertown, the Welcome to Watertown's,
Signs are, I don't think the signs bigger than most billboards are appropriate in residential zone property. You could make my problem go away by just saying commercial, industrial, agriculturally zoned property.
But does that limit you from putting any kind of sign in a park?
no, because that would still fall under incidental.
Okay.
This would just be for a gateway signage. And so in ordinance right now, we do have that for signage on a water tower. And so, but we do specify in that language that it has to be municipally owned property, which I think would be a good addition to this language. Just so if somebody is, I mean, I don't know who would do that, but if we want, that's why I didn't put that in there, that somebody would put a Welcome to Watertown sign on their own property. But we could make it specific. I don't know, Todd, do you think that adding to be approved by city council?
No, because your approving authority is the Board of Adjustment when it comes to zoning issues like this. If you're talking about something to be accepted. You're not gonna make me happy with the residential aspect of it, but that's fine. There's six other people on the board.
Sounds good. I mean, so this is what I'm getting at here, for example. Now, luckily, this is zone C2, so that would be fine. But my fear is that, like, say, and that would never happen because that's not a gateway, but just, let's take Serenity. I mean, anywhere that, so if any residential development abuts a gateway in the future, that then we might have to mess around with, well, we can't put it there. And if there's not any commercial or industrial or non-residentially zoned property.
Let's just go back to the premise and your entryways into the communities are going to be on primarily 212, 81, and 20, right?
Yeah.
All of those are highways. So you're going to have, at worst, as an R3. So let's just omit R1 and R2s. But you're going to have, at nodal areas, it's going to be commercially zoned. It'll either be stripped commercially zoned on some of those areas, or you're going to have mixed-use development, what your land use plan is laying out, to show more intensive residentially zoned. So just take it out of the R1 and the R2. Okay.
I'm fine with that. That's a good point, with that they are going to be on collectors or arterials.
Can I throw something out there too? Isn't out by the lake, by that water tower on Highway 20, isn't that zoned R1?
Yes, that's another good point, Bonnie.
Yeah, just get rid of that one. Yeah, bigger one.
Yeah, so then that perfect example.
It's city-owned property.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just put it so it's on city-owned property, because like you're saying, there's not too many of us that are going to run out and get a Watertown sign in our yard. So I think that would eliminate any problem.
Unless it's just you can get a little realtor sign, but nobody's going to spend whatever this would cost, most likely. But we are working actually with a private investor that is interested in donating money towards this, as long as we can get everything worked out, which would be a gracious donation. So, and it'd be such a nice addition.
That's fine. And the existing sign that's on that R1 zone property, as we all know now, the entrance to the city of Watertown is now further west of that location, right? Because we've got property annexed and ready, proposed to develop west of that location, right? So that sign is going to be about a quarter or a half mile too late at some point in time down the road.
So are you saying that you're okay now with any zoning district?
No, I'm still, again, I'm just saying, I think that sign is not going to be a welcome to Watertown sign, because you're going to already be in the city of Watertown before you even hit the sign. So that sign is going to be gone someday, right? So you have the opportunity still to keep it in commercial, industrial, ag, R3 zones.
I would anticipate that would be where that sign would go for that gateway.
Even though the city's going to be gone, is going to grow beyond that point?
Well, I guess we can see where we're
Todd,
at.
you won't be here to worry about it, Todd.
Well, I don't know, you got a campground that's just going up the road, and the developer that's gonna be developing everything, that property, a quarter mile or half mile to the west of that. Again, I don't care, you guys decide what you want, I'm a no on it unless that happens, so go ahead.
Well, because no matter where we put the sign, we're not saying this is the extent of city limits.
I get that.
Okay, so I think though if you add the amendment that it be on municipally owned property. And whoever wants to make the motion in what you want to include as far as non-resident or not including R1 and R2.
Well, I just make this comment, is these are going to be city signs. We'll presume for the sake of discussion that who is ever directing this in the city is going to use some discretion on the size of the sign. So that if it's in a residential district, they're probably not going to put up a 2,000 square foot sign. So if we allow them to put the signs in residential zone, that would allow the use of that property, for example, that you've been talking about out by that water tower, because it is a nice location. It's high on a hill, you know, and it's not uncommon for welcome to a city to be in, you know, inside the city limits in some fashion. For example, Brookings. You mentioned Brookings. A lot of their signs are actually, you know, somewhat in the city, you know, unless you're going to keep moving the sign every, you know, 10 or 15 years, whatever the case may be, that might be a reality. So I think if we presume that who's ever directing this effort from the city side uses discretion when they're putting these signs up, that you would not necessarily want to eliminate putting a sign in R1 area.
Yeah. And that's where I was getting at. And actually, to ease anybody's worries, I guess, the sign that we're looking at is only 1,200 square feet for the location of the interstate sign. So,
Is there, Mr. Chair, I haven't been involved in this discussion necessarily, but is there anything that would prevent somebody who is really upset with the city to put a huge sign in their yard? Just a big, you know.
no, because that's why I think that we should, that's where we kind of left it open, but I think that if we add that amendment that said on municipally owned property.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good.
Yeah.
Idea.
Yeah,
That's
but
a good idea.
otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, spite homes are a thing, right? Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know what.
any other discussion or thoughts, comments? If not, I'll take a motion from somebody who wants to craft something together.
Liam's kind of been the.
Come on, Blake. Count on you. I'd make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-08 with the specific amendment that the sign must be on municipally owned property.
Perfect.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, do a roll call, please.
Colleen,
Yep.
Aletsky. Stein,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Kays,
Regrettably, no.
and Dolly.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Way to support your community, Todd.
I love this town.
I'm just kidding. I get your concerns. Okay, and for the final item, and now this will be two different resolutions, two different actions. So, but I'll present them as the same because it is the annexation and zoning of the Carter Trail Edition, which this will be part of the Lake Compesca trail expansion, or the trail loop around Lake Compesca. And where am I here? So okay. Why am I lost here? Oh, there I am. Okay. So it'll run on the west side here. I believe it's 60 feet. Yeah. Let me look at the exhibit, sorry. Yeah, 60 feet adjacent to the already annexed area on the east side of South Lake Drive, on the west side, the southwest side of Lake Compesca. And so the reason for this is we had discussions with the county and just between our joint jurisdiction and the county ordinance on what was able to be platted, and the use was the main issue with the county. So we came to the conclusion that our best way to meet all zoning ordinance requirements was to move forward with this annexation and zoning. And so it will just be that 60-foot strip adjacent to those properties, and it'll be zoned R1, single-family residential. And then just for the record too, when the rest of this, the Carters will be conveying that property to the city, or that's the plan, that's the proposed plan. But that trail area will suffice for their park dedication if they bring in the rest of their 80 acres or 60 acres. So, and that will be, we'll have to get that language in writing somewhere, just so that's followed through in the future, because this is it's a great gift that they're willing to give for the purpose of the trail. And then it'll add a nice amenity too for taking people off of South Lake Drive in that stretch, because there's a lot of deep ditches, and it'll be more safe and more aesthetically pleasing probably too.
Any idea when the trail would be put on it?
I believe this summer.
Yeah, they plan to start as soon as they can, and I think all the easements are signed and everything's a roll. I'm pretty excited about it myself.
Yeah.
I know from personal experience they're not all quite signed yet, but we're set to go though. Yeah.
That property to the east, I mean, obviously, is the trail just gonna end there where the annexation ends?
Then it will cross back over, proposed on the north side of so between lot 7 and lot 8.
You see where that
Let me-
dock is? It's gonna turn right there and across the street.
So right,
Yeah, this is our garage right here, and see
Just to
where
the
that
east of
dock
your
is?
garage, Bonnie?
Yeah, it's gonna cross right there, and then it's gonna keep going from there. It's gonna turn,
right here, right, Bonnie, up on the screen.
it'll go right beside it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Is that right, Bonnie? On that red line?
Yeah,
Oh.
right there, but it'll like where the dock was, the dock isn't there anymore, but those trees and stuff, yeah, right in there.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And where does it continue from there though? It'll just cross over the street and then go like in front of Horshem's house. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it continues on the east side then of the street.
No, it ends right there.
Carter's ends right there.
It ends, the trail ends like right here.
Right.
Compesca.
And then it doesn't pick up until Memorial.
Right. I mean, oddly enough, I was actually walking on that this morning, and it would be really nice to have that extend. Although that walking trail needs a lot of work. I mean,
One of the older pieces.
yeah.
Anyways.
When Dennis developed that area, that subdivision, he put that in.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how old it is.
All right, are we ready to vote? Do we need a public hearing? Is the public hearing closed?
Did we open it? But here, I'll point out on the GIS, this is what, for reference for anybody, this is where it ends currently, and then so it'll extend. And then it'll continue to extend all the way around the lake. So that'll be really nice continuity there.
This part of it's gonna go almost all the way to Sandy Shore, right?
Yep.
All right. Anyway, do we need to open public hearing for this or not?
Yes, yep, open the public hearing.
Okay, open public hearing. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Take a motion on this.
I would move resolution number 2020-14, annexing the land. And then we have to have a subsequent motion, right?
Yep, and so let's do this, let's take the motion and action on this item, and then let's do the next.
So I'm moving resolution number 2020-14 specifically.
Yep, and that's the annexation.
All right, second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, that was second by Oletsky, right?
Johnson.
Oh, okay, Dargis Johnson. Sorry, guys.
Motion passed. Go ahead.
No, now you can take the motion for resolution number 2020-15, which is the zoning, the R1 zoning for this annexed property that you just recommended approval.
We have to reopen the public hearing for that.
No.
I would make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-15, establishing the zoning designation of the recently annexed piece of property as R1.
Second.
We have a second.
Who got that one? Dargis Johnson again. I'm just trying to help out Tanya with the minutes. Because that's where I saw Bonnie's mouth move before, so I was like, who said that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Or, no. Opposed? Motion passed. Next.
Now we're on to the open public comment.
Anyone here to speak about, in the open public comment section of the meeting? Seeing none, close it. Public hearing, go ahead.
And then new business, which I won't even joke around that I
Yeah.
have any.
All right, any old business that we really have to talk about today?
Nope, none of that either.
Mr. Chair, I would like to go on the record, publicly stand corrected about the zoning or the designation of the TIF boundaries. My esteemed colleague over here was correct that the Plan Commission does recommend the project plan to the council, so I want to apologize for that.
On behalf of all the non-lawyers everywhere, that's fine. Alrighty, any other old business?
No,
All right, liaison member reports, what's that?
for the council, for our liaison member.
All right, don't have any council members here. Do we need an executive session?
No.
All right, take a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor?